The telephone felt heavier than any championship belt he had ever lifted. Muhammad Ali sat in the quiet of his Los Angeles home, the afternoon sun streaming through the curtains in long golden ribbons. His hand rested on the receiver, trembling slightly, though whether from Parkinson's or something deeper, even he could not say. It was 1994, and somewhere in Louisville, his mother Odessa was waiting for his call. She had been waiting, it seemed, his entire life. He dialed the number slowly, each digit a small journey through time. The phone rang once, twice, and then her voice came through the line, soft and familiar as a lullaby half remembered from childhood. "Baby," she said, because that is what she always said. Because to her, he would always be her baby, no matter how many titles he won or how loud the world shouted his name. "Mama," he replied, and the word came out slower than he wanted, thicker than he intended. The disease had taken so much from his voice, that instrument that had once danced and sung and proclaimed him the greatest. Now it stumbled over simple syllables, like a boxer whose legs had finally failed him. But Odessa understood. She had always understood, even when no one else could. Imagine yourself in that room now, the afternoon light warm on your skin, the distant sound of traffic outside, muffled and dreamlike, the smell of fresh flowers from a vase on the table, something sweet and fading. And between Los Angeles and Louisville, a telephone wire carrying more weight than copper and plastic should ever have to bear. They did not speak of illness. They did not speak of endings. That was not their way. Instead, they spoke of small things, the way families do when the big things are too heavy to lift. Odessa mentioned the weather in Kentucky, how the spring was coming early this year, how the dogwood trees were already starting to bloom. Ali listened to every word as if it were scripture. She asked about his children. He told her they were good, growing fast, becoming their own people. She asked about his wife. He said Lonnie was taking care of him, taking care of everything, the way she always did. She asked if he was eating enough, and he laughed, or tried to laugh, that small sound catching in his throat like a bird that had forgotten how to fly. Close your eyes now and hear that laughter. Not the booming, confident laughter of the young champion who had floated like a butterfly. This was quieter, gentler, worn smooth by years and struggle. But it was still laughter. It was still joy. And on the other end of the line, Odessa smiled at the sound of it, because a mother's heart can hear things that ears cannot. According to those who knew the family, Odessa Clay had been the quiet center of a very loud life. While her son had shouted at the world, she had whispered prayers. While he had danced in the spotlight, she had sat in church pews and kitchen chairs, holding the family together with hands that knew how to heal what they touched. She had been there for all of it, the glory and the exile, the triumphs and the trials, loving him with a constancy that never wavered. She had loved him when he was Cassius, the little boy who came home crying because someone had stolen his bicycle. She had loved him when he became Muhammad, the man who changed his name and his religion, and challenged everything America thought it knew about race and courage. She had loved him when the world called him a coward for refusing to fight in Vietnam, and she had loved him when the world finally recognized him as a hero. Her love was not conditional on any of it. Now, in the autumn of her years, she was tired, the kind of tired that sleep cannot fix. And though neither of them spoke of it directly, they both knew that these conversations were numbered, that each one might be the last. Let your breathing slow to match the rhythm of their words. Long pauses, filled with everything that could not be said. Short sentences, carrying decades of meaning. The silence between words was not empty. It was full, overflowing with a lifetime of shared memory. Ali thought about his childhood as they talked. The small house on Grand Avenue where he and his brother Rudy had grown up. The smell of his mother's cooking, drifting through the rooms. The sound of her voice, singing hymns on Sunday mornings, clear and sweet as spring water. He thought about the times she had bandaged his cuts after street fights, her fingers gentle but firm, never scolding, just fixing what was broken. He thought about the night he won his first Golden Gloves championship, how she had been in the crowd, her face shining with a pride that outshone all the lights in the arena. He thought about the morning after he beat Sonny Liston, how she had called him at 4 in the morning just to say she had watched on television, just to say she was proud, just to hear his voice. And he thought about all the times he had been too busy, too famous, too caught up in being Muhammad Ali to simply be her son. The calls he should have made and didn't, the visits that got postponed and never rescheduled, the small moments that seemed unimportant until they weren't. Breathe deeply now and feel that weight. The weight of time running out, the weight of words unsaid, the weight of love that is too big to fit into any conversation, no matter how long. You remember, Odessa said, her voice drifting like smoke, when you used to run in the mornings, before the sun came up? Ali remembered. He had been 16, maybe 17, training for fights that nobody thought he could win. He would run through the streets of Louisville in the dark, his breath making clouds in the cold air, his feet pounding out a rhythm that felt like prayer. And sometimes, when he passed by his own house, he would see a light on in the kitchen window. His mother, awake before dawn, watching for him. You always had the light on, he said, the words coming slow but clear. I could see it every morning. I was praying, she said simply. Every time you passed, I said a little prayer, asking God to keep you safe, to bring you home. Picture that light now, a single yellow glow in a window, before sunrise, in a sleeping city. A mother standing at the kitchen sink, coffee growing cold in her hands, watching for a glimpse of her son as he ran past, not knowing then that he would become the most famous athlete in the world, not caring about any of that, just wanting him safe, just wanting him home. The conversation wandered, as conversations do when there is too much to say and not enough time to say it. They talked about old neighbors who had passed away. They talked about Ali's brother Rudy and how he was doing. They talked about nothing and everything, circling around the center that neither could touch. And then Odessa said something that would stay with Ali for the rest of his life. She said it simply, without drama, the way she said everything important. I'm proud of you, baby. Not for the fighting, not for the titles. I'm proud of you for who you are inside, for never losing that, no matter what they did to you. Listen to that silence that followed. Feel it filling the space between two heartbeats. Some words are so heavy that they need a moment to land, to sink into the soil of the soul where they can take root and grow. Ali tried to respond. He wanted to tell her everything, that she was the reason he was who he was, that every good thing in him had come from her, that he was sorry for the worry he had caused, for the nights she had stayed awake wondering if he was safe, if he was happy, if he would ever come home again. He wanted to tell her that he loved her in a way that had no words, in a language that existed before language was invented. But the disease made speaking hard, and some things, perhaps, are too big for words anyway. I love you, Mama, he said finally. It was all he could say. It was everything. I know, baby, she replied. I always knew. Close your eyes now and let that love wash over you. Not romantic love, not the love of friends or fans or fellow fighters. This was something older and deeper. The love between a mother and child, which begins before birth and continues past death, which asks for nothing and gives everything, which survives every distance and every silence. The call could not last forever, though both of them wished it could. There were other people waiting, other responsibilities calling, the endless machinery of life that keeps turning, regardless of what we want. They said their goodbyes slowly, neither wanting to be the first to hang up. Talk to you soon, Mama. Soon, baby. Take care of yourself. You too. And then the line went quiet, and Ali was alone in his Los Angeles house, the telephone still pressed against his ear, listening to the dial tone as if it might suddenly speak again in her voice. He did not know, as he sat there in the afternoon sunlight, that this would be their last conversation. How could he? We never know which moments are final until they have passed. We never know which goodbyes are the last ones until the silence stretches out forever. Odessa Clay passed away the following day. The details of her death are private, as they should be. Some doors are not meant to be opened by strangers, but those who were close to the family say that she went peacefully, surrounded by love, her journey complete. When Ali received the news, according to those who were with him, he did not scream or cry or rage against the world the way he might have done in his youth. He simply sat, very still, his hands folded in his lap, his eyes looking at something far away. Perhaps he was remembering the light in the kitchen window. Perhaps he was hearing her voice one more time, calling him baby, telling him she was proud. Let yourself drift now, as the story drifts toward its end. The Los Angeles sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. The flowers on the table have released their last fragrance into the evening air, and somewhere in the space between memory and dream, a telephone line still connects two hearts that distance could never separate. Ali never spoke publicly about that last conversation. Some things are too sacred to share with the world, even for a man who had lived his life in the spotlight. But those who knew him in the years that followed said there was a softness in him when he spoke of his mother, a tenderness that cut through the fog of his illness and shone clear as that kitchen window light. He kept her photograph in his room until the day he died. He kept her prayers in his heart. He kept her love as the foundation beneath everything else, the solid ground on which all his glory had been built. Feel your own breathing now, slow and steady, like a mother's heartbeat heard from inside the womb. Feel the weight of the day releasing from your shoulders. Feel the gratitude for everyone who has ever loved you without condition, without reservation, without needing you to be anything other than what you are. The telephone sits silent now. The conversation is over, but the connection remains, stretching across years and miles and even death itself, binding together everyone who has ever loved and been loved in return. This is what remains when everything else falls away. Not the titles or the trophies, not the fame or the fortune, not even the memories, which fade like photographs left too long in the sun. What remains is love, simple, stubborn, inexhaustible love. Sleep now, as Odessa Clay has finally slept, released from the long watch of motherhood. Sleep as Muhammad Ali eventually slept, cradled by memories of a voice that called him baby, a light that never went out, a love that never let go. Tomorrow will bring its own calls to make, its own words to say or leave unsaid, but that is tomorrow. For now, there is only rest. And somewhere, in the quiet between heartbeats, a mother is still praying for her son, and a son is still running home toward the light.